Hi there! In today's video, I will continue my custom content management system project. In the previous video, I started with this HTML5 template from html5app.net and I converted it into a template that I can control myself with PHP. So I converted all the HTML elements into these PHP classes that you see here. So I have an article block that includes an array of articles. I have a banner and a footer, and then I have footer links in the footer, and a form which includes form fields, and a header, and a menu, and a spotlight. Now, if you missed that video, you can click here to watch it. But in today's video, I would like to be able to save these PHP classes or the objects made from these classes, as you can see on my index.php. I create the header, and then I create some menu links, and I add them to the menu, and I render the menu, and I render the banner, and then these spotlights here, and these articles, and these footer links, and this form, and the footer. But now, I would like to save these in a database, so that I can read them from the database, and then render the page based on that. So let's create that database first. So I will go to phpMyAdmin. And I will log in with a very difficult password. And let's create a new database. This will be called Custom CMS. And now we need some tables in here. Now how I think that I will build this thing is that I will create JSON representations of all of these objects, and then I will save those JSON objects in the database. So of course I should have an ID for the element, and then the type of element. Is it an article, is it an article block, or a banner or footer, or what is it? And then I should have the page, because of course I want to have multiple pages here, not just one. So ID, type, page, and then the object data. So I think at least 4 columns right now. So let's do that. And I will call this elements. And the first one will be the ID. And I will use a big int because I will have many elements. And this one will be an auto increment and a primary. And then I will have a page, which also will be a big integer. And let's make it an index. And I will have an element type, and that can be probably just tiny integer. And then I will have the data, and that will be text. What is the definition of text? I think it's big enough. And that's it. I'll just choose some collation here. And I will copy this create statement so I can save it somewhere. Alright, so now I have that one. But then I also have to have the pages so that I can refer which element is on which page. And one more thing I forgot. So let's add one thing. I need the order in which the elements should be on the page. So I will add one in the end. And I will call it order. And I will preview this SQL and save it. I will call it wait, because order is a reserved keyword. I could still use order, but let's prevent any problems and call it wait. And then I need to create the pages table. So what do we need in the pages? We need an ID again. And then we need probably a name for the page. And I can't think of anything else right now, because the content will be the elements. Content will be inside the JSON of the element. So let's have just 2 columns here. We'll have an ID and a name. And I will have the name be 64 letters, and ID will be a big integer, and it will be a primary, and it will be an auto increment. Alright, and I will save it here. Alright, our database is ready now. So now we have to be able to save the elements in the elements table. So we need to be able to create JSON objects from PHP objects. How do we do that? Well, if I would have saved these as public properties, then we could actually just use JSON encode. But I think in the future there would be problems. It's not just going to work like that. So I will create my own function that will create a specific kind of JSON object for each of these classes. So let's start with the article. It should only have these image, title, text, link URL, and link text in the JSON object. So let's create that. Public function getJSON. And I will just return. Now I'm wondering, should I return a JSON string or should I return an array? Because I might have objects inside of objects. So if I make a string from this and then I have to add that inside another JSON object, then it will be a JSON string inside of a JSON object. But actually, I think I'm not going to store the articles in the database as their own object. I will only store the article block, and then perhaps I should have parent element column in the database so that the articles would have a parent element of the article block, so that those articles belong in that article block. But in the end, I think that the articles will come from another database table. This article is actually just a representation of the article summary, or this box right here. So it will actually be generated from an actual article in the end. So for now, let's just do this. Let's create a public function JSON getJSON, and this will be a string, and it will return JSON encode something, some kind of array. So it will have all of these things. Okay, I think here's what I'm going to do. I will do this. I will have a getJSON method that will give me the JSON string, but I will also create a getArray method, which will return the array. And in the public function getArray, I will return an array that then I can convert into a JSON object. And the array in this case will contain these things. The title will be getTitle, and the text will be getText. And link URL is going to be getLinkURL. And this one is going to be getLinkText. And then the articles will be articles, and articles will be first an empty array, and then for each of this getArticles as article, we will say add to the articles get array. So now at this point, when I get the array, it is only going to be an array. And then when I get the JSON, then the whole thing is going to be a JSON object that then can be converted back into an array. Now I think I should include some kind of type in the JSON object so that I can know which type is so. And the type of this one will be, what should I have as a type? In the database, I saved it as an integer. So I think this is a good place to use enums. I have never used enums in PHP, so let's see how this works. So I should be able to do something like element types article. And then I should be able to create that element types.php. And this will be enum article, element types. And now I have to go to the documentation to know how this works. I want to use the number-based backed enumerations, exactly this. And this will be an int. And then I will have what is the convention here? Okay, let's just say article equals 0. And what was it? Semicolon. Oh, it's case. Case article equals 0. Okay. And let's create the enums for everybody. So we will have an article block. It will be 1. We will have a banner, which will be 2. And I will create the other ones. Alright, now every article has its own type. And I will change this to article this way. And now I can do the same thing with the article as well. And I'm sorry, this is going to be article block. And then I can do this with the article. So let's go here, and this will return a type article, and it will have all of these things: image, title, text, link URL, link text, no articles. And I will do it with the banner and the footer. And here in the footer, we have to create an array of the links as well. So we will again do links is an array, and for each of this get links, links will be link. Sorry, I did not use an object here. So I can actually use, maybe I should make an object from the links, but let's just say links is this. I can just use get links because it is an array already. This get links. But with the form, I need to say, well, it's just one form. So I say this get form get array. Great. Then we have a footer link, which will have a type and a URL and a link name. And I didn't make getters for this, which I probably should do, but I am lazy right now. And this should be footer link. And then we have a form. And the form will have an action and a submit text and fields. And we will loop through the fields again. And that's it. Then we will have the form field, and it will have a label and a type. And header is next with a heading and a menu name. And we will have a menu with title, links, and close text. And I forgot to change this. And again, links is only an array, so I can just say this get links. And last but not least, we have the spotlight, which will have a bunch of things. We will have a class, an image, title, a text, a link URL, and a link text. And this is going to be a spotlight. And let's see, this should be a menu, not a header. This is a header. This is a form field. This is a form. This is a footer link. This is a footer. And banner is a banner. Article block is an article block. And an article is an article. But now I had some squigglies somewhere in here. Footer, get form, get array. Did I not create a get array for the form? I did create one. Form. All right, I rewrote the get array and now it works. I don't know what was going on there. But now I should be able to get an array and a JSON from each of these objects. So what are we going to do now? Next, let's create a page class that will include an array of elements. So class page, public function construct. Now I'm not quite sure yet what I will put in the constructor, so I won't make that. But I will create a public function add element, which will take an element. Now I should have extended these elements with or used like an element interface or something. So I will say element. And this will do this element, add the element to this element. And I will create that array elements. And it will be an element array. List of elements on page. Now let's add the namespace here as well. And let's create this element object class. Element.php. let's make it an abstract element. And I won't have anything there for now. And then I have to extend all of these. Extends element. Alright, so in fact I will create a public function construct. And in here I will give the page a name. And then I will create a method to save this page to the database. So public function save. And save will receive a database object. And a page should have an ID. And then if we don't have an ID yet, then it means we are going to create a page. So then we will make a query to the database, which I have not initialized yet, but I will do that soon. So let's say statement equals database prepare. What are we going to prepare? Insert into pages name. Now name is blue, but I hope I can still use it. Values name. And I will execute. Name will be this get name. And I will have to create that. So it will create the page, and then for each of this get elements, and let's create that. As element, we are going to create that element. We are going to save that element. So we will call it element save to the same database to this ID. And now we don't have an ID. So we will say this ID will be database last insert ID. Now we should probably add some error handling here, but never mind. And I think that's all we need here. Now we have to implement the save method on the element. And I will annotate here that get element included in page. And it's an array of elements. Wait a minute. Why does it not know that this is a method of the element? Anyway, let's create here. There is no save method. So now I'm getting these errors here because I annotated this as an element, but element doesn't have any method. So actually I should add here abstract public function save, and it should get a database and a page, or just a page ID. And now I have to implement that for all of these things. But now, technically, I shouldn't implement them on all of these because I might not save all of these in the database. Like this article, it's part of article block which will be saved in the database. But let's do it anyway. It's not going to take long. Now actually, I can implement this save method in the abstract class because they are all saved the same way. So I will do this. If this does not have an ID, which I will have to set here. If there is no ID, then we will create that element. And in the elements table, we have ID page type data weight. Page type data. Okay, so page type data, which all are blue. Hopefully it will still work. Page type data. And we will execute. Page will be page ID and type will be, now I need to implement some kind of get type, this get element type. And I will add this as an abstract function. Can I annotate this or what? Declare that this is element type, element types. I should have called it element type. Okay, and then data will be this get JSON. So now I will get the JSON of that object and save it in the database. And after this is done, I will set this ID equal to database last insert ID. And now let's implement this get element type for all of these things. And I should change here this to be this get element type. And I will do this for all of these. Alright, that is done now. So now let's go to our index.php and let's just quickly add here a database connection. Database equals PDO. And I don't remember how PDO connection works, so I will Google it. Alright, so database name will be custom CMS and username will be, I didn't create a user for this, I will just use admin. And then let's create the page. Let's start it over here. Let's say page equals new page and the name will be front page. And then I will add every element to the page. Page add element header. And add element menu and add element banner. And then in the end we will call page save to the database. And let's refresh this page and see if we get some errors. I am pretty sure I will get many errors, so I will open the error log right away and go here and hit refresh. No errors here, no errors here. Let's go to the database and browse. We don't see anything. We got the front page here, but we did not get any elements. So let's add the thing, database set attribute. I never remember the attribute. PDO, error mode exception. True? Is it this way? Refresh. No exceptions. Okay, it's this way. So I say error mode will be error mode exception. And let's try this again. And we got some error. Duplicate value. Well, that's not related to this, I think. Let's refresh. And we got an error here. Object of class element types could not be converted to string. Aha. Well, how do we solve this issue? Where is it trying to do that? Here. Well, what if I convert it to integer instead? Weight doesn't have a default value. Okay. So let's save the weight in there as well. Let's set this as 0 for now. And let's try again. You have an error in your syntax. Element 28. I cannot, unfortunately, have commas in the end of lists in SQL. Refresh. Cannot use object of type article as an array. I meant to write articles. Refresh. Warning. Object of class element types could not be converted to int. Why not? Element types. There's some how to get PHP enum as int value. I need to use value. So here I need to say value. And let's refresh the page again and see the errors. I think that is the old error. We did not get any errors. So let's check the database. We have, I think, multiple front pages here. Yes, we have 9 front pages. How about elements? We have a bunch of elements as well. Now, let me remove everything from here because I think that there are multiples right now. Let's truncate these. So now there are no pages and no elements. And now I refresh this page and I refresh this page. Now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 elements. Great, they are in the database and the page is 1. And in the pages I have front page. Great. So now I can save the objects in the database. Now I should be able to read them from the database. So how do I do that? Let's create an abstract public function from database. Now it might be better to make like a factory pattern or something like that, but let's do it like this for now. So from database we will get a PDO database and we will get the ID. Let's do it the other way. Integer, element, ID and the database. And sorry, it's an abstract class, abstract method. So now every element has to have a way to get it from the database. So let's see. Article. When we get an article from the database, public function from database, and we will have the integer of element ID and a database instance. So first, what we have to do is we have to get the data from the database. So let's do that. Let's actually say this get data from database. Does this make any sense? Element ID and PDO database. And this one I will create in the element class because it's the same for everyone. And I don't have to put these in here. So this I will create here. Abstract public function get data from database. And it will get the integer element ID and the PDO database. And then it will fetch, this is not abstract, this is a real thing. And it will prepare statement, select everything or select data from custom CMS from elements where ID is ID. And let's execute that. And set the ID to element ID. And then we will get the data. So data will be statement fetch column and then return data. And this will be a string. So then the article will get the data from the database. What did I call it? Exactly that. It will get the data from the database and then it will create a new article. So this return type will be static. And I need to set it here as well. Static. And then I will say return new element article. And we have the image, which will be data is that. Data image. Sorry, I have to do it this way. Image. Actually, I have to return a standard class here because I want to return JSON decode data. So I want to decode the data that is in the database. And then I will get the image and title and text and link URL, link text. And now I will duplicate this to all of the elements. And then here with the article block, it will get the articles as JSON objects again from the database, but I have to convert them into article objects. So I will have to say articles is an empty array, and for each of data articles as article, I will say articles will be article from JSON, and I will create that method like this. So then article should have a from JSON, which is actually this. So this will return this from JSON data, and I will make that public function from, it's going to be a static function from JSON data, and the data will be a standard class. And it will return an article from the standard class. And this will be static from JSON. And I think I will move this into a from JSON function as well. and the banner. Can I just use static here so I don't have to change it for everybody? And this will have heading and text. And here again I have the same thing with the footer, because links is an array of objects and form is an object, so I have to convert those. So form is going to be form from JSON, data form. And links will be an array, and for each of the data links as link, we will add it to the links. Footer link from JSON link. And then here again with the fields, I need to go through the fields in JSON format and then convert them into actual objects. And here I didn't put the fields in the constructor, so I will do it this way. I will say form equals new static, and then for each data fields as field, form add field. And then I will say field from JSON. And then I will return form. And this should be form field. And in the form field, we have to implement those methods as well. All right, those are all done now, but I have some yellow stuff in here. I think I did those already, but it's just not refreshing right now. So now we should be able to get the page from the database. Wait, we cannot get the page yet from the database. We can get the elements, but not the page. So let's add a method here, public function from database. And we will get the ID, which is page ID, and the database from which to get it. And we will fetch it from the database. So now we have the page ID and the page name. So we will set this name equal to data name. And then we have to get the elements. Now I'm passing around this PDO object now. This is not the best way to do it, but we will fix it later. So let's create this. So we are fetching all of the elements whose page is this page. So we get all of those and then we loop through all of them. And then we will add those elements to this page. And it will be from JSON. But now I have to know from which object. So I will say element type will be this, or element class is going to be this, get element class of this element. And then we'll say element class from JSON element. Actually, I won't do this. I will just return this. Element list is a new array, and I will add this to the element list. And then I will return the element list. And then here I will say elements will equal this, and then here I will loop through the element. So for each element as element, this add element element. And then I have to implement this get element class. So private function, let's make it public, maybe I need it somewhere else. Public function get element class. And this will be standard class element. And type will be element type. And then let's say types will be a list of all the different element types. So they are here. And I have to flip them around. Is there a way I could do this? Can I get the enum name by the number? I'm sure I can get it somehow. Get PHP get enum name by value. Here we have this. So for each of element types cases as element type, we will say types element type value will be element type name. And types will be an empty array. And then we will return types element types type like this. So this is probably a very complicated way of doing this, but I think it will work. So this function will return which kind of element, which class name should we use for this element, because we used in the element types the same names for the enum values or the enum names as the class names are. So then here I will call whatever that class is that I have to call and then get from JSON. So now if we say from database this page ID, then we get that page's data and we set the name to that name. And then we get the elements and then we loop through the elements and add them to this page. And then I should have a way to render the page. So let's do that. Public function render. And this will be a string. And now I will go to the index and I will take all of this stuff and I will put it in the templates solid state and I will create a page.html. So this is the template for a page, and in a page there will be, now there's a bit of a problem here still. I have this one wrapper section here into which the spotlights go. So how should I do this? Well, I will add here a placeholder for top content, and here I will add a placeholder for wrapper content, and here I will add a placeholder for footer. And then in the page I will say template is file get content. Of that I will copy it from here. Actually I will copy the whole thing. Page.html, and I have to make the get theme, which I have everywhere. Public function get theme, and right now it will just return solid state. And here now I have to replace these placeholders: top content, wrapper, and footer. Top content, just like this video right here. Wrapper and footer. And then top content will be something, and wrapper will be something, and footer will be something. So here I will do this. Top content is empty string, wrapper is empty string, and footer is empty string. And then for each of this get elements as element, if element get element type equals element types footer, then footer plus equals element render. Else, if the element type is spotlight, then we will add it in the wrapper. Otherwise it will be in the top content. Now I'm not sure if this makes any sense, but it should work like this. And now I will go back to the index and I will just add here page equals new page. I have to get it from the database. How did that work? This in fact should be a static function. And it's not this name, it will be page is new page data name, and then page add, and then I will return page, and this will return static. So now if I go to the index and I say page is page from database, and I'll give it the ID 1. Was it ID 1? Yes. From database. And then I will say page render. So now this should work, except I will get some errors. And I will remove this page from here And I need to echo this because it just returns the string. So let's open the logs and see how many errors we can get. Refresh, completely empty page. And we get an error. ID must not be accessed before initialization. So here. I have to set the ID. Let's set it here, the page ID. And I have to change this to have protected integer ID. And it can be null as well. And I will remove it from here. And now it should work. Did I use this new page somewhere else? No, that's the only place. So let's refresh and see what happens. Uncaught type error. Get element class. Argument 1 must be of type standard class. Array given. So we fetch the elements and then it is an array. On line 89, element is an array. Sorry, it will be the element data. Element, wait a minute. Yeah, I have to say element equals element, JSON decode element data. Refresh. Header not found. Class header not found. Does it not recognize the namespace when I call it that way? Header. I think I call it header. Yes, it's a header. What if I add here /unconv custom CMS? Uncaught type error. Footer link construct must be of type string, null given. Link name. So let's see. Footer link, what does it look like? Aha, links is an array of empty objects. Aha, okay, so here when I save it into database, I used get links, but I cannot do that because that will get the objects. These are objects, footer link objects. So I have to change this to be links, and then I will say links is an empty array, and for each of this get links as link, add to link, footer link from JSON link. Sorry, to JSON, not from JSON. Get array. And let me change this manually for now. So type URL link name. And I will save this in the database manually. And let me see, are there other things like that which have arrays? So when I save them. Okay, I think the others should be fine. Let's try one more time. And let's see the error log. Cannot use object of type standard class as array. Okay, so now when I save them in the database as JSON and then I read them back, then they won't be arrays anymore, even though I save them as arrays. So I need to fix this. And let's refresh. And cannot use object of type standard class as array. No, that's the old error. Page.html not found. I put it in the wrong place. Refresh. And look at this. Here we have a page with the header. We have a menu and we have the articles here, and we have almost wrapper content. I think I call it something else. And we have the footer in here too. Now, let's do this. Let's go back to the page. I think I call it just wrapper. So let's refresh. And now we have these spotlights here as well. So now we are successfully reading the page from the database. That is amazing. Now here I saw one little mistake, that now there are two new lines here. And that is because in the getAddress method, I am adding the new line to line break. So I should just use this address here when I save it to the database. But now it's of course already in the database, so I can't do it. But it works now. So that is great. Now we can save the pages to the database and read them from the database. Now there's still no easy way to save the data in the database. We have to write the PHP code. But in the next episode, I will make it easy. So don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you won't miss the next video on this project. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.